Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. HBO recently released a totally alternate ending to House of the Dragon Season 2, and we've also learned what their alternate plan was back when there were still 10 episodes in the season. That's right, there were originally supposed to be 10 episodes. We found out what was supposed to happen in those 2 extra episodes that got cut, so we'll break it all down. One of the big complaints of the season is that Episode 8 finale that we actually got felt a lot like Episode 8 of a 10-episode season. Like, how did you feel about the actual finale? Well, it felt like Episode 8 of a 10-episode season. And the real complaint is that they cut the actual finale, which would have been a much more satisfying payoff to the end of the season, paying off all the things they've been setting up all season long. House of the Dragon and the original Game of Thrones series have typically been famous for having really crazy Episode 9s and then relatively chill Episode 10s. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. And big reminder that Night of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1 episodes will be the next thing that we get next year. It's supposed to air around the same time, I think, that House of the Dragon Season 2 aired this year. I've already done a much longer, in-depth trailer video for that, so I'll link it at the end of this and down in the description below. They released their first trailer for that just as House of the Dragon Season 2 was ending, just to remind people like, oh yeah, we do have new Game of Thrones stuff coming next year. But the real big stuff, you may have actually seen this totally alternate ending to Season 2, Episode 8. In the final version that we saw on screen, one of the ending montages shows each of the different armies marching on each other at Harrenhal. Jason Lannister's army and his lions coming from the Westerlands arriving at the Riverlands. The Hightower army with Targaryen and Daemon finally joining the fight coming from the south. Aemond also ordered them and Criston Cole's army coming from the Crownlands to converge on Harrenhal. Aemond himself was about to head to Harrenhal with Vhagar, expecting to find Daemon, Caraxes, his army of Rivermen, with the Stark army marching from the north across the Twins, thanks to Jace's diplomacy earlier this season, coming to help Daemon's forces, which were already really large, like it was meant to be a really big force. I think he had over 30,000 people there at Harrenhal already. But in this alternate version of that ending HBO recently released, you can actually see in this scene the Stark Greybeards marching over the Twins, Cregan Stark very clearly marching at the head of the army. And this isn't like a CG situation. They actually filmed the Cregan Stark actor walking over the Twins with his army. So you're like, wait a minute, why did they Photoshop him out of that ending? Like, if they filmed Cregan Stark, why are they withholding him to Season 3? I think part of the reason gets into what happened with those missing 2 episodes, Episode 9 and Episode 10, that the writers had originally planned for the season, like their original planned ending. There have been a lot of fans doing very detailed timelines on when House of the Dragon Season 2 went from 10 episodes to 8 episodes, like what happened, when it happened. Essentially, what went down is that in late 2022, HBO renewed the show for Season 2. Ryan Condal and the writers finished writing all the episodes by early 2023. Season 2 started filming in April 2023. But right before that happened, he reported that they had scripts for 10 episodes finished, ready to shoot. Scripts change a lot while they're actually shooting episodes, but they had finished what they needed to actually start filming. Then just weeks before Season 2 started filming episodes, Warner Brothers, not HBO, so like the parent company here that owns HBO, Warner Brothers, reportedly ordered House of the Dragon to cut those last 2 episodes, 9 and 10, leaving only the 8 episodes that we saw on screen. Remember, this is like right before they started filming, like weeks before they started filming, forcing the writers to scramble at the last minute with weeks to go before shooting to replot the 10-episode season to 8 episodes, like condense all that plot to 8 episodes. Because if they hadn't changed anything and just filmed the things the way they had planned through Episode 8 would have ended without any kind of cliffhanger, and it would have been even weirder than the ending that we did actually get. That cut in the number of episodes and the timing of when they started filming the season coincided with one of the longest writer strikes in history, meaning that none of the writers on the show could actually go to set while they were filming and fix issues with the episodes as they were being filmed. Typically during seasons, writers will fix any issues that come up in the script as they film episodes. This happens on all shows all the time. Like, it's not just House of the Dragon. It happened on Game of Thrones all the time. It happens on every show at some point. But during writers' strikes, that's against the rules, so nobody can actually fix the scripts. They have to leave it to the actors on set, the directors to fix stuff, which can be disastrous sometimes. Now you're asking, what was actually in that original plan for 10 episodes the season? What happened to those missing 2 episodes that would have made the season feel so much better? It sounds like in their original plan, they actually had a really solid season. And a lot of the dissatisfaction that everybody's complaining about comes from the fact that they cut so much stuff out. Based on what Ryan Condal and the writers said before the season started, it was primarily the Battle of the Gullet and the Fall of King's Landing, like two really major WTF events in the Dance of the Dragons. Right before the season started, he'd been hyping up the Battle of the Gullet, but then after they cut the last 2 episodes and been filming for a while, his comments on the Battle of the Gullet changed. He started talking about how they had reallocated the story they wanted to tell based on the resources they had available and the time they had in the current episodes in Season 2, which is a very diplomatic way of saying that we don't have enough time or money to actually do a good version of the Battle of the Gullet now. Basically confirming the reason why they cut those 2 episodes is because Warner Brothers cut their budget big time. Typically, it takes House of the Dragon about $20 million per episode, but for big battle episodes, that number can go way bigger. Typically in the past, like the original Game of Thrones seasons, even House of the Dragon Season 1, HBO was always happy to open their purse and let them spend whatever they needed to make a really good season. Remember how I said that the episode 8 that we got felt a lot like episode 8 of a 10-episode season with the way it ended with all the armies marching towards each other and the setup for the Fall of King's Landing? Like, wow, it feels like it's setting up a lot of stuff, but not a lot of payoffs. That's because episode 8 was meant to be set up for episode 9, which has typically been the major WTF battle episode or some WTF tragic event in the season, like the major event of the season. Then typically the case has been in the past that episode 10, still major things happen, big payoffs, wrapping up the season, but not nearly as big as what happened during episode 9. Probably the best example of that is Game of Thrones Season 6 with like the Battle of the Bastards happening, but then like in episode 10, the actual finale, you have the destruction of the Sept, which wasn't quite as big as the Battle of the Bastards, but was still a really big WTF event. So it sounds like House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 9 would have been the Battle of the Gullet with the Triarchy's fleet arriving to fight Corlys Valyrian's blockade. In Episode 10 would have been Rhaenyra paying off that conversation with Alicent where she betrayed Aemond and the Greens, telling Rhaenyra when to strike King's Landing, time for when he'd be gone at Harrenhal with Vhagar. And this would have also paid off Daemon's Weirwood vision, seeing Rhaenyra wearing her crown sitting on the Iron Throne. We would have actually seen a version of that in the Season 2 finale, like the ending shot. And it would have been a parallel for the Season 1 Episode 1 shot of young Rhaenyra standing in front of the Iron Throne. There are a couple of Daemon's Weirwood visions where he saw versions of her on the Iron Throne wearing her crown, young and old, but the last vision was meant to set up the original version of the Season 2 finale. Doesn't that ending for Season 2 sound like a way bigger payoff, like a way better season in general, with both the Battle of the Gullet and the Fall of King's Landing? That would have been a banger season and paid off all the time we spent with Daemon having those trippy Weirwood visions at Harrenhal. So the next big question you all have, why did Warner Brothers of all people, not HBO, but Warner Brothers, the parent company, cut those last 2 episodes at the very last minute without warning when HBO and the writers did not want to cut them? HBO sounds like they'd make 14 episodes a season if they could. Currently, the best report we have is that this has more to do with David Zaslav's current marching orders to all the divisions of Warner Brothers to cut costs big time. And recently, if you haven't been reading the news, Warner Brothers has had very, very bad financial problems, like at the very, very top levels. It's been an ongoing thing for them the last couple of years with the disastrous rounds of multiple buyouts. Like it's been multiple different crazy things happening at the corporate level. And it sounds like things got so bad at that level that they've now started to spill over and affect more quality productions like House of the Dragon and other HBO stuff, which normally you'd think they would double down on. Like, if it's doing so well for them, it's like probably one of the most popular things that they make. Why wouldn't they make more of it? So now the big follow-up question you're all asking, does this mean House of the Dragon Season 3 will also be 8 episodes? Will the final Season 4 also be 8 episodes? This is me quoting what Ryan Condal, the showrunner, said about that. When people directly asked him, like, does this mean that Season 3 will be 8 episodes like Season 2? And he said, I haven't discussed with HBO about it. I would just anticipate the cadence of the show from a dramatic storytelling perspective will continue to be the same from Season 2 on. Which to me sounds like a very diplomatic way of him saying that, yeah, it's only going to have 8 episodes in Season 3 and Season 4. Keep in mind, none of the writers want this. None of the people that actually make the show want this. This is like a corporate thing from Warner Brothers. Not even HBO wants this. It's always possible we go back to 10 episodes per season, but I'm not going to hold my breath with all the problems Warner Brothers' larger parent company is happening right now. So what this probably means for House of the Dragon Season 3 is that Season 3, Episode 1, Episode 2 begin with the Battle of the Gullet, like they pushed it to Season 3 so that they can spend the money they actually need to on it, because HBO Warner Brothers wouldn't give them the money to do it during Season 2. If you haven't read the books, the reason why people are so hyped up about the Battle of the Gullet is because it's known as the bloodiest sea battle in the history of Westeros. It involves the Triarchy's fleet coming to fight Corlys Velaryon's fleet break their blockade. But it also involves a lot of other key players too, and dragons, like because we have the Dragon Seas now, so the dragons do start joining the different wars across Westeros. For those of you wondering why Jace hasn't joined any of the fights, that's actually been a running thing with him this season. Like, he's been pissed off that Rhaenyra keeps passing him over and not letting him go out on his dragon Vermax and actually fight. The Battle of the Gullet is the change to that, like he finally gets to join the fight. There are a couple moments during Season 2, I won't point them out too specifically because I think they give away some spoilers, but there were a couple moments in Season 2, if you know, that sort of foreshadow how his story ends in the books. The funny thing about that, and Ryan Condal, the showrunner, sort of teased this during his final interview for the actual finale, when people were asking him all kinds of questions. There's always been the question as to how much the books are going to spoil what happens on the show, like how much are they going to change things for the show so that it plays out differently. Ryan Condal said that Helena's conversation with Aemond, like their final conversation on the balcony there, is really critical to this idea going forward on the show and how it sounds like they're going to be changing things a lot. There's a scene during that where she essentially tells him his future, like, this is how you're going to die. You're going to die at the God's Eye. You'll be gone. You won't be able to do anything. And she tells him that Aegon will eventually see victory. Eventually he'll sit the Iron Throne again, but he'll also sit on a wooden throne. So when people ask Ryan Condal, like, why would you have a scene where Helaena literally spoils the story? Like, why would you want to spoil the story that way? And he had this evil glint in his eye because of what Helaena said after this, because Aemond's response to that, like when she told him his future that he would die, he said, I could have you killed for that. And then she says it wouldn't change anything. Ryan Condal reportedly got a really evil glint in his eye, and that was meant to be a key that they're actually going to change the story. Like, Aemond, knowing his future, will take different actions, and it will lead to a slightly different version of the outcome, which I think is the show's way of getting around big potential book spoilers. So even though we're all expecting this big Daemon versus Aemond fight that they've been hyping up all season at the God's Eye with their dragons, it sounds like the way the show pays this off is going to be differently from the books. There were a lot of you asking this season if Sunfire is really dead because Aegon, during episode 8, said, my dragon is dead. Like, it seems like he confirmed it. That would also potentially change Rhaenyra's story without getting too far deep into that, because that could potentially turn into spoilers. But it sounds like Ryan Condal is also saying that the way Rhaenyra's story plays out will also be different from the books. So if you were worried about potential book spoilers, that's actually really good news for you. It sounds like it's going to play out very differently. But everyone post all your predictions in the comments below if they will change a lot of those really major events now based on what it sounds like the showrunner and the writers are saying. How do you think that it will play out differently? They're supposed to start filming season 3 by early next year, so we'll probably hear more about what their actual plan is for plotting the rest of the Dance of the Dragons out. Whatever they wind up releasing, of course I will do videos about it, and we'll probably get some more official trailers for Game of Thrones Night of the Seven Kingdoms later this year too, so of course I'll be doing full episode videos for that, just like all the other Game of Thrones series. Everybody click here for my bigger trailer video for that, and click here for my other House of the Dragon Season 3 video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.